Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. Today I want to show you how I made the card for the Casually Crafting design team. Every month the team get together and we have a theme, and this month's theme was actually colours. And the colours we could use, and we had to use all of them, were Pear Pizzazz, Daffodil Delight and Polished Pink. And the pink and the yellow together are quite bright. They're really pretty, but they're bright. And I didn't want the colours to overwhelm my card. So I did use all those three colours, but it's a little bit more subtle, I think. I used the Daffodil Delight, and the paper I chose had the polished pink on. And I used the Pear Pizzazz for the leaves. And you can probably tell I used the In Bloom set, which has stamps and lots of flower dies, leaf dies. And I used this die also for the sentiment. And I used the stamp, the sentiment from the In Bloom as well. And sometimes I mix and match sets, but this is such an easy set to use that you can use all the pieces for this card. I didn't need to look for a different stamp set. So let me show you how I made it. Now I will put all of the sizings on my blog, so don't worry about having to write anything down. And I started with just half a sheet of card folded in the middle to make my base, and this is the Pear Pizzazz. I'm just going to get my bone folder and make sure it's nice and straight. Okay. Now I started by making the inside or the top layer. And what I did was I used this little designer series paper that has the polished pink on. And it's the Expressions in Ink. Sorry, that's upside down. The Expressions in Ink Speciality Designer Series paper. I love how this looks. It's so pretty. And I thought I would use this piece because it wasn't going to be overwhelming. And once I cut it, I could use this sort of lighter piece rather than having tons and tons of the pink. And you can see that's where the lighter piece is. So your eye goes to the flower as well and not just that bright pink underneath. So that's the little piece I chose. And it was only a 1.5 inch strip. So I actually cut it off a piece that I'd cut for a different project and had left over. So you don't even need much. And then I'm attaching it to a piece of basic white, and this is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And I'm going to attach it with liquid glue because I want to run it through the embossing folder. And I find that if I use liquid glue and pop it right onto the edges, then the paper doesn't lift when it goes through the embossing folder itself. So I want my lighter piece to be over here at the left hand side, and I'm just going to use my grid paper to sort of line this up. I'm going to go up just 2 squares from the bottom. I didn't want it to be right in the middle, so I've lined it up, see, at the left and then again at the right. And I'm going to pop it down. And I'm just going to go over it with my bone folder. There we go. And then I used the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. It's, let's put something in so you can see it. You see, it's sort of not a real pattern, it's just a texture. So I popped that in, and all I did was I turned it upside down, lined it up on this line at the bottom, closed it up, and then I turned it back this way just so I could check if it was still level. And then I just ran it through the embossing machine, and what I came up with was this. Let's put it on that base again. So can you see how it embosses the designer series paper and the background? So it makes it look almost like a painting, and that you've got that as part of the background as well. It's not a separate piece. Okay, and then I just took a slightly larger piece of basic white. Sorry, I've got glue on my finger there. A slightly larger piece. So this was cut at 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. And it just gives you that little tiny border all the way around. And I'm going to attach that. I just need to pick up my stamping seal. Okay, there we go. I can attach this with stamping seal because it's not too deep on the embossing part. Sometimes when it's more of a 3D embossing and it's like deeper little channels and things, I like to use the liquid glue. But for this, it's not too deep. And so I find that the stamping seal works well. Okay, and I'm just going to add that. So make sure we've got that border still round. And then I'm going to pop it onto the front. Now usually I design everything and work all on the front and then maybe attach it, but this time I'm going to do it differently and have this attached even with its backing layer. Oh, I think this is nearly at the end. There we go. Okay, and then this just goes right in the middle. And can you see how it's got a bigger border? Because we made those layers a little bit smaller, it's got that nice bigger border for around it, almost like a picture frame border. Okay, now this is already pre-stamped. It's the sentiment that I showed you from here, and it's cut out with this little die. I liked this because it had the dots, which are the same as the leaves and the flowers. So I felt like it matched really nicely. It wasn't kind of a stitched shape with long pieces, it was just dots. And that's going to work for what I want. And I'm going to attach that with dimensionals. Oh, let's move that along. There we go. I'm just popping 3 on. Okay, let's take those backings off. And I want it off towards the right hand side so that you can see a little bit of the plainer paper and it covers up some of the bright pink. And you can see it's the exact same width or height as the little die cut. Okay, so now I've got lots of little pieces that are cut out. And I cut my leaves in Pear Pizzazz. When you look at these leaves, what I didn't realise to start with was I thought, oh look, oh, let me just move that along. It's falling out here. Take it right out. I thought, oh, they've given me 2 sets of leaves so I can cut out 2 at the same time, which is great. But actually, when you cut them out, can you see one curves to the right and one curves to the left? So if you need them to curve a certain way, just be sure that you've got the right piece out. But for the front, both of my pieces are curving off to the left. And I've got one of the bigger flowers and then one of the tiny little centres. And this is where my Daffodil Delight comes in. This is the only piece of Daffodil Delight I'm putting on the front of the card. Now, I love colour challenges because often it's not pieces that I would put together, and so it really challenges me. I wouldn't go for all the bright colours. Let's just hold that on there. Oh, yeah, that's okay. So I didn't want to have, you know, something too overwhelming because just because that's not really my style. Now I'm going to put these 2 leaves over here. And I don't want to glue them down until I know that I've got them in the right place. Let's just move these a little bit. And then the flower is just going to go over the edge of the little sentiment label there. So, see, I know that I need this one to come down just a tiny bit like that. Okay, so I'm going to glue this one on first, and it's almost going horizontally, so that makes it easier. I'm not going to put glue on the very end one because if you don't glue that piece down, it sort of sticks up just a tiny little bit and gives you a bit more depth. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that horizontally. And can you see how this bit just pops up? And then let me check again how I want this. And it will depend as well on where you stamp your sentiment, how far over or how far down. Okay. And again, I'm only going to put glue on the bottom 2 sets of leaves. I'm not gluing the little stem. I'm going to pop that in. Oops. But I'm going to take that little piece of stem off. Let's see. There. Okay. Now this one I'm going to pop on with a dimensional and just put it at the side of the sentiment, but I know that it's going to fit. I know that these 2 little petals are going to fit over the top. And then I've got one of the leaf sets where it just has the 2 leaves, and that's going to go at the other side. Right at the right-hand side at the bottom. Just to tie those leaves in so that they go across and make your eye go across the whole page. Okay. Now for the inside of this one, I put the same size piece as this piece that we embossed and another one of the flowers with the leaves. And can you see this leaf bends to the right? And this time I'm going to do the same. I've got the smaller size piece, but I've also cut a piece of the polished pink. I'm not sure if I'm going to put that in yet. I want to see how it looks, but I'm just going to make up this little piece here. If you're going to give this card by hand, you could put this on a dimensional too, but I know that mine is going to go in the post, and 2 sets of dimensionals are too much to go through the, like the Canada Post, that little, I don't quite know what it is, but it's like a little letterbox shape that they have, and if your card fits through the little gap in the box, then you know, then it's one price. If it doesn't, it bounces up to an extraordinary price for the UK. So I just like to make sure that mine's going to be just a letter size and not an oversized letter. Okay, so here it is on the pink. Let's have a look. I know it's not going to be the same as the front, but I do actually like that little pop of pink on the inside. I think that's what I'll do. So, and it's still within the colours and the parameters that we were allowed. I should have done this on the first one. Okay, and then we'll pop a little bit more adhesive on the back. Make sure I've got it the right way up. Wouldn't be the first time I'd stuck it in upside down. Okay. There we are. Oh, I like it with that little pop of pink, look. It's very pretty with the white, but just that little pink piece just catches your eye. So there we are. That's my simple card, but using the 3 colours that I needed. Now, if you wanted to add a little bit more, you could add like a little bow on here. I've got a little bow of something else here, just in twine. But you could certainly add a little bit. Or you could add some rhinestones or pearls. You could colour them with your blends so that they were maybe the pink or the Daffodil Delight. And I think that makes a really nice little card. And just that effect from having the whole of that layer embossed and the paper as well, makes the paper just look a little bit more subtle, but you've still got the colour there. So thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed watching that. If you want to pop over to my blog, you'll find that all the sizings and measurements and supplies that I used are on there. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.